And back to our top story, the summit between Presidents Putin and Trump in Helsinki. For more on this, we are now joined by Howard Feldman, analyst and body language expert. Now, Mr. Feldman, thank you for joining us today. The media have been all over the types of Trump handshakes, that there was no handshake with Merkel, that the Macron handshake was too friendly. So how can the Putin-Trump handshake be read? Everyone's already writing about how the fact that the one in front of the media was only 3 seconds long.
Right. I think it's important to note that obviously we're watching this body language very, very closely. But at the same time, we also have to know that Trump and Vladimir Putin, everybody knows that we're watching this body language. So we do have to look at it with a certain amount of cynicism. And we have to also understand what they're bringing to this meeting. Trump is coming from a very, very highly critical domestic America. Hillary Clinton tweeting just before he meets, saying to him that, asking him which team he's on, referring to the Soccer World Cup. So he's very aware that his whole country is looking at him and trying to interpret what is really going on between these two leaders. And it's with that he enters the room and he faces what seems to be an opponent. So he starts off and he's almost strutting. Both of them are. They sit down, they're very, very uncomfortable. They look like a divorcing couple. They don't look like people who are happy to be seeing each other. And then they reach out for that handshake. Now, what do we see about that handshake is it is a very distant handshake. It is not one where their whole bodies are involved in it. It's not one hand on top of the other. Trump is very, very visual with the placing of his hand, and he goes in very, very evenly, and that's how the handshake is executed. And what's more is it's very, very far from each other. So it is not a friendly handshake. It's a very fair handshake. It's almost like two boxers starting off the beginning of a match, of a competition, of a round. So it is very, very controlled, and that's the way in which these parties, these two, have entered this negotiation. But it's also important to note that, in fact, they know full well that the world is watching them. So I think it was important that the before and after looked different, that the visuals were so different.
And Putin's posture seemed fairly relaxed, while it was noted that Donald Trump kept swinging from side to side. Do you think that means anything?
I think that observation is correct. Donald Trump sat in his normal Donald Trump position, which is his legs slightly apart. He kind of slumps quite comfortably, although he didn't look comfortable. If you looked at his mouth, there was a grimace to it. His jaw was clenched. He wasn't comfortable at all. Putin definitely looked like the more comfortable person in the room. Again, let's look at what's bringing them there. Helsinki is a much more comfortable place for Putin than it is for Trump. Putin has just come from an enormously successful World Cup event, so he is feeling a little bit more relaxed. It is on his turf, even though it's a very, very important discussion and meeting for him. But his body language certainly displays that he is the more comfortable of the two. That said, Donald Trump does sit in his steeple position, his hands in that position, which is confidence. So he's uncomfortable, but he is a little bit more confident about this meeting. But yes, I would agree with you that Putin was more relaxed to begin this discussion.
Now, Trump actually winked at Putin. Some media are saying that it's a knowing wink. Is it definitely that, or was it just a friendly gesture or something else?
So what I think, and I might be very wrong, but I think Trump was, it was a friendly gesture to himself. I think he was trying to relax a little bit. I don't think that wink conveyed any natural warmth. I don't think it conveyed camaraderie between the two. Maybe it was, if it was any form of communication, which I'm not sure that it was, it might have been, all right, you know, we got to do this, let's do it, let's make the best of it. But I don't think that we can read too much into that. If anything, my thought is that he was almost comforting himself with that wink. I didn't buy it as being anything friendly.
Now, given what you were saying earlier, that these two people know that they're being watched by the whole world, how much weight can really be given to handshakes, to winks, to body position in these situations?
So I think, first of all, I think we have to recognize that around about 55% of our communication is nonverbal. The other part is tone, and what we actually say is a very small percentage of how our communication works. That said, we can't really hide our body language all the time because something is going to give it away. So people like to say that if you look left, if you look right, well, then you're lying, then you're not telling the truth. The reality is there's a whole cluster of body language, body communication, non-verbal communications that give away a whole picture. And we also have to look at context. I don't think we can look at this out of context. So I do think that I sense that there was posturing and there was optics involved. And I think that given my read of the situation, I do think that they wanted to convey a little bit more discomfort before. And I think it was more important to Trump to do that because he wanted to show America that he was going in as a difficult, tough negotiator and that after the meeting they could relax a little bit. I think it was, to me, it looked a little staged. Whether it was or wasn't, obviously we can't know for certain, and we need to go back and analyze it frame by frame. There wasn't time to do that, given that the second press briefing has really just taken place. But what we have to do is analyze it frame by frame and understand if that was the case or if it wasn't. I think there was posturing. I think that it did look a little staged to me.
Given that at the press conference after the two actually met, there was more smiles, there was more thanks between the two of them.
Correct.
Does that indicate that there was possibly how well the meetings went, or is that just general protocol?
So it might be general protocol, but you definitely did get the sense from the way in which even they were holding the podiums that it was a little bit more relaxed. When Putin was speaking, you saw Trump leaning a little bit more towards him. There was a natural comfort after their private meeting. Indications are that meeting went well. I think that there were definitely, there's more to read in terms of body language with regard to the second meeting than the first, even though there were such visible actions in the first meeting. I think they were much more relaxed afterwards, and I think they were naturally relaxed.
Do you think if the two do meet again, as they were both saying that they hope to do, that we'll at that point see the signature Trump handshake that lasts for a very long time and has more contact with it?
I certainly think so, but he's also very aware of it, you see, and that's why I'm a little skeptical, is he's well aware that everybody's watching his handshake. You know, I think that more than almost any other public figure, we watch Trump's body language. Somehow it strikes us as being a little bit rudimentary, and he's less able to hide his body language, but that doesn't mean he's not going to acquire that skill. We obviously also have to recognize that Putin has been in office for a lot longer. He's much more schooled at this political at the political posturing. So I do think that we will start to see less of it from Trump as he evolves as a politician.
Howard Feldman, analyst and body language expert, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
More news after